Alright, so for today's English lesson, we are learning to use sequence connectors. So, what exactly are sequence connectors? Let's read on to find out more. Now, first, you need to understand what is a sequence of events. In a story, in a recipe, in a book on teaching you how to bake cookies or to make a DIY art and craft project, there's always an order in which things happen. Okay, in narratives as well, in fairy tales and so on, there will always be a logical sequence of events that tells you the order. So, as you can see in this picture here, I have a door. Okay, and this door was part of a house. Okay, and so the house was built, but maybe there was an earthquake and the house collapsed and everything was destroyed. Okay, so this is just a very simple example of a sequence of events. So what are sequence connectors used for? When we are talking about the steps or the order of doing things, like I mentioned earlier in a recipe, maybe cooking a pot of spaghetti or making some soup, there will always be these steps. And we use sequence connectors to indicate what is step one, step two, and step three, and so on. Okay, so sequence connectors are also important when we want to give instructions, like how to do something, and also when we tell stories to show the sequence of events very clearly. The five sequence connectors are shown in this picture over here. Okay, the five circles here. First, next, then, after that, and finally. So I'm now going to show you these five sequence connectors in action by looking at the steps to make a hamburger. Okay, first, take a bun. Next, put lettuce and a meat patty on the bun. Then, add a slice of cheese and a slice of tomato. After that, add some tomato sauce and lettuce. Finally, put on the top bun and eat it. You'll realize that because I used these five sequence connectors, you will be able to see five steps very clearly to make this hamburger. And each sentence did not begin with step one, step two, step three. Okay, rather, the sequence connectors were used particularly for this reason. So if I were to look at the picture of the hamburger, every sequence connector pointed to step one, step two. Okay, step one was the bottom bun. Step two was adding the meat patty and the lettuce. Step three was the cheese and the tomato. Step four was the lettuce and some sauce. And then step five was to put the top bun. Okay, so with the sequence connectors, you could see the five steps very clearly to make this hamburger. So, a summary again of the sequence connectors. When I begin with my first step or the first set of instructions, I will always begin with the sequence connector first. This always comes first. Okay. After that, I can use any of these three sequence connectors. I can use next, then, or after that. And these three, you can use it in any order that you like. This is the meaning of used interchangeably to give the next few steps. Although it might be just easier for you to remember the connectors as next, then, and after that. Okay, so these are for the next three steps. And the very last step, or the very last thing to be mentioned, you will always sorry, not end, but you will begin that sentence with the sequence connector finally. And then your reader will know that, this is the last thing I must do. This is the last thing that will be mentioned in this recipe, in this set of instructions, and so on. Okay, so with this lesson, I hope you are more confident to use sequence connectors. And now we will move on to the next part of the lesson where you will read a short text and put in some sequence connectors into the text.